Who is Dr. Destroyo? Who is Dr. Destroyo? Who is Dr. Destroyo? Who is Dr. Destroyo? Who is Dr.
Who is Dr. Destroyo?
Who is Dr. Destroyo? Who is Dr. Destroyo? Who is Dr. Destroyo? I am Dr. Destroyo. From the Death by Media Man podcast show, it's Dr. Destroyo. The story of the world's first true supervillain. We're telling Dr. Destroyo in sequence every 2 weeks. So if you haven't listened to the first episodes, go back and start there. Then, this will all make a lot more sense. Chapter 59. So, I had my coping mechanism, I had my criminal crime spree, I had my serial killings, and my mask. Previously, I had just needed one other thing, and now I had that as well. A shitload of money. Cash. Dollars in my hand. Dinero. Moolah. Dough. Loot. I knew I had plans, but I wasn't totally sure what those plans were. Plans to escalate things, to encourage further weirdness. But how? And with whom? I thought about Wayne Boudreau and how he'd been the solution. Maybe he'd only really been the solution for a minute or two. Maybe less. Maybe never at all, but it was nice to give him the benefit of the doubt. Also, it felt better to look at it that way. Had I gunned down a mentally incompetent man-child, or had I slain a proudly costumed adversary? Which one looked better on a resume? Is this how adventures start, or how lives end? There's always a sacrifice. Making omelets by cracking eggs and all that. How many people had perished in the pursuit of a peaceful planet? How many souls would need to surrender their lives in the wake of my wants? And what's so bad about that? Everybody dies, eventually. So why not give your life up to a greater purpose? Why not? Why ask why? Once again, I found myself withdrawing from the world. I spent a few days convinced I was laying low, when I was really just setting myself up for a spell of nothingness. I got some chores done first. I put a bunch of money into my bank account, not a lot, just a few grand, enough so I could write some rent checks without having to worry. Then I went down to the pizza slice place, and I arranged to purchase a very large quantity of pot from the guy out front. I spent a little over $500 and got a quarter-pound baggie of weed with a little nugget of inky black hash. This is getting stupid, right? It felt almost disrespectful. Here I was, leading the charge as the world's first real hero-killing supervillain, and how was I spending my time and my ill-gotten gains? On the lowest of low-level desires, I was smoking pot and sitting on my ass all alone in a darkened apartment. I ate nothing but delivered pizzas until on the 8th day I got a really bad stomachache and a nasty bout of the runs. Guessing human dietary needs were a bit more complex than I'd been consuming, I went out and bought some other stuff to eat. I only went out at night, hitting up a 24-hour grocery store for an overpriced bundle of bananas, apples, some yogurt, and a bunch of potato chips. Real healthy, right? I thought about buying booze, maybe just some beer or something harder, but ultimately decided against it. Drinking felt unnecessary, and besides, I couldn't take the chance of getting drunk and doing something stupid. With pot, the higher you get, the less likely you are to do anything, let alone something incriminating or otherwise harmful. Get drunk enough and who knows what stupid crap you'll find yourself doing. Lowered inhibitions weren't what I needed. Lowered rates of activity, specifically mental activity, was more my speed. I decided that rather than spreading myself too thin, I would just pick one substance and use it real well. And that was marijuana. I was hitting the bong heavily and constantly. I had semi-permanent red eye and an omnipresent case of the munchies. And honestly, I have to say, I was pretty happy. I liked being high all the time. It felt really nice. Meanwhile, outside of my apartment-sized world, Dr. Destroyo wasn't just a meme anymore. The public performances with the solution had exploded the idea. Everybody was talking, but I was only halfway paying attention. Really, it had all gone so smoothly that it was easy to forget that it had even happened at all. From the inside, looking out, the world was glossy and light, like a dream, like slowly spreading a thick layer of ice cream across a warm slice of pie. I think, and I don't want to start splitting hairs here, but I think it was somewhere within the first couple of weeks or so after the death of the solution when a little voice inside me started getting a little vocal about its doubts, specifically using the term sociopath in a semi-pejorative fashion. As in, thinking to myself, what sort of fucking sociopath would drug and murder homeless people just to play out some sort of sick fantasy life? But it wasn't a fantasy life. I really was Dr. Destroyo. I am Dr. Destroyo. It's all really happened. It was all really happening. It was all really real life. The money made it so much more real. Before, maybe I had just been some miserable, crazy fucker 2 days away from hanging himself in the closet. But now I had $1 million worth of evidence of my brilliance, and the various videos of the solution's execution were getting views in the collective billions. I wasn't insane to think that I was special. I was special. I truly was in the most important sense of the idea. And now, I was getting paid. I had been paid for being Dr. Destroyo. It was a real job, an actual paying gig. And those people who died, those guys, they were specifically some of the most unspecial, replaceable humans we have. Gosh, where will we get more drug-addicted criminals to replace the ones I'd used? How about from pretty much anywhere in our failed public school systems? Or prisons, they're constantly releasing fresh criminals out onto the streets. Basically, the people I killed, they simply were not special. They were dream people, and mine was the mind of the dreamer. In the grand scheme of things, they did not matter as much as my grand schemes. Or who knows? Maybe that's just what I confidently told myself to keep suicide at bay. I couldn't constantly debate my actions or I'd never get anything done, even though I actually was getting nothing done. I was mostly just sitting on the couch, watching nothing on TV, looking at nothing on the computer, existing in a haze of deep smoke, and feeling an occasional twinge of what might have been happiness when I got to watch an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was always followed by a little kick of remorse, because I wasn't actually the one who enjoyed watching Star Trek. That had been Tom. But Tom wasn't around to enjoy it anymore. Which was too bad, because if there was anybody who could have appreciated giant duffel bags full of money and long stretches of time getting stoned on the couch while watching crappy TV shows, it would have been Tom. Meanwhile, out in the world, the second showdown with the solution, the climactic one, was getting hailed as the Kennedy assassination of costume crime fighting. I had to admit, when viewing the footage, that the solution's costume looked awfully cool. All shiny in the sunlight. He'd seemed almost heroic for a moment there. Also, there had been a couple of people who had been filming from up behind him, and they really caught the full effect when the back of his head opened out into the warm air of the day. The back of his head opened up, and a billion steel-coated, blood-dripping butterflies came trickling out on a breeze. My stoner aspirations aside, I knew that keeping Dr. Destroyo off the streets for a little while was a good idea. The cops hadn't been too sure about what to do before, but a public shooting intensified things in a major way. A major, threatening way. In fact, a couple of big old cops with big old cop mustaches had gone on to the news, and they had made some very impassioned speeches about how they were going to catch me and bring this crime spree of chaos to a close. And you know, a tiny part of me wished that I could believe them. Shooting the solution with his own gun had given everything a real Ouroboros flow. The solution had been his own solution. How could you not love that? Now that he'd been solved, there was no problem that needed a solution. He had made himself obsolete. It was very strange watching video footage of myself executing another man in the costume. It was me, but it wasn't me, you know? It could have been anybody under that mask. Maybe it was all a delusion. Maybe I'd never left the couch at home. Maybe I was just imagining that I was putting on a mask. Maybe I wasn't the doctor. Maybe I wasn't anybody. I thought about that, rewatching the footage. What would I think if this wasn't me? Would I be scared, outraged, indifferent? I'd probably just enjoy it and make some grim, glib remarks. Which was kind of what I was doing anyway. Chapter 60. One night, I dreamed I had an earthquake machine. I dreamed that I could register a 9.9 on the Richter scale. I saw thousands of homes devastated, towns on fire, people crying, lives lost, cities burning away in streams of molten stone. I dreamed that I could end the world. I could shuffle humanity from off the crust of the earth. I dreamed of carnage that stretched out across crumbling continents. I saw the shell of the planet tremble, and all the blood-sucking ticks were shaken loose, cast out into empty space, and left behind, left to die. There was this world, this realm, the universe, destiny, whatever you want to call it. There was that, and there was me. And that was all there was. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else was relevant. I was her master, and we were the only two things which were real. And one night I had a dream from which I couldn't seem to wake up. In that dream, I was Dr. Destroyo. And my mask was my true murderous face. Dr. Destroyo is written and produced by Hank Pattison for the Death by Media Man podcast channel. You can subscribe to the Death by Media Man podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a like or a comment and tell a friend. And if you'd like to support the Death by Media Man channel with your money, there's a link to our Patreon in the description of this program. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next installment of Dr. Destroyo.